Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashutara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashutara Shatashmad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashutara Shatashmad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Lagokshara Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopala Patadash Raghunath Shar Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaur Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishra Bhradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīmad-Bhagavatiya Navam Skanda ki jai. Shri Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. And what is it? This whole Śrīmad Bhagavatam, this whole 9th canto is about the Surya Vangsha and the Chandra Vangsha. Right. Dandavat pranams, everybody. Raseshwari Mataji, Indira Mataji, Savitri Didi, Madhavi Didi, Rohit Radhakrishnan ji, Kishore, Gargaraj ji. Dandavat pranams, everybody. Really excited to be beginning this 9th canto with all of you. Let me fix. All right. Let me share my screen. Oops. All right. So let's just before we begin, let's just get a very brief overview of the 9th canto. Let's see. So yes, part A, that's chapters 1 to 13. We're going to be reading about the Sun Dynasty. From Garbhadaksha Vishnu comes Brahma, then Marichi, Kashyapa, Vivaswan, Shraddhadev, or Vaivasvata Manu, and then who has 1 daughter and 10 sons. And so we're going to be now reading. Ila becomes Sudyumna, then Prishadra, Kavi, the lineages of Karusha, Drishta, Nriga, all of them, Sharyati, Nabhaga, Ambarish. Then we'll read all about Ishvaku's lineage, only the prominent kings from that. And then chapters 14 to 24, we'll read about the Moon Dynasty. So Garbhadaksha Vishnu, Brahma, Atri, Soma, Buddha, who marries Ila, and Pururava. And we read all about that yesterday, so let us begin now. Jai Shukadeva Goswami ki jai. Shri Parīkṣit Maharaj ki jai. Okay, King Sudyumna becomes a woman. Oh, but before we begin, let's do the Mangalacharan. So, Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo mahavadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namne gauratishe namaha. Guruve gaurachandraya radhikaya tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna bhaktaya tarbhaktaya namo namaha. Yang pravrajantam anupetam apeta krityam dvaipayano viraha katara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravo bhinedus tang sarva bhuta hridaya munimanatosmi narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Shrinvatang Svakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayashvavadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavaivasmi Tavaivasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvang Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshaya Kshiptashtakama Ditaranga Madhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Haribo Champak Didi. And I wonder if Nri Hari Prabhu and Bhavatarani Mataji will be joining. That would be really nice. Okay, so King Sudyumna becomes a woman. Chapter 1. This chapter describes how Sudyumna became a woman and how the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu was amalgamated with the Soma Vangsha, the dynasty coming from the moon. By the desire of Maharaj Parīkṣit, Shukadeva Goswami told about the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu, who was formerly King Satyavrat, the ruler of Dravida. While describing this dynasty, he also described how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, while lying down in the waters of devastation, gave birth to Lord Brahma from a lotus generated from his navel. From the mind of Lord Brahma, Marichi was generated, and his son was Kashyapa. From Kashyapa, through Aditi, Vaivasvata was generated. And from Vaivasvata came Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Manu, who was born from the womb of Sangya. Shradadev's wife, Shraddha, gave birth to 10 sons, such as Ishvaku and Riga. Shradadev, or Vaivasvata Manu, the father of Maharaj Ikshvaku, was sonless before Ikshvaku's birth. But by the grace of the great sage Vasishta, he performed a yajna to satisfy Mitra and Varuna. Then, although Vaivasvata Manu wanted a son, by the desire of his wife, he got a daughter named Ila. Manu, however, was not satisfied with a daughter. Consequently, for Manu's satisfaction, the great sage Vasishta prayed for Ila to be transformed into a boy,
and his prayer was fulfilled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, Ila became a beautiful young man named Sudyumna. Once upon a time, Sudyumna went out on a tour. He went on tour with his ministers. At the foot of the mountain Sumeru, there is a forest named Sukumara. And as soon as they entered that forest, they were all transformed into women. When Maharaj Parīkṣit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami about the reason for the transformation, Shukadeva Goswami described how Sudyumna, being transformed into a woman, accepted Buddha, the son of the moon, as her husband, and had a son named Pururava. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Sudyumna received the benediction that he would live 1 month as a woman and 1 month as a man. Thus he regained his kingdom and had 3 sons, named Utkala, Gaya, and Mala, who were all very religious. Thereafter he entered his kingdom to Pururava and took the order of Vanaprastha life. All right. Okay. Shirajovacha. Suru Manjari Didi there. Just Haribol. Nutanberry. Okay. Shirajovacha manvantarani sarvani tvayoktani shrutani me viryanyananta viryasya harestatra kritani cha. King Parīkṣit said, My Lord Shukadeva Goswami, you have elaborately described all the periods of the various Manus and, within those periods, the wonderful activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has unlimited potency. I am fortunate to have heard all of this from you. Yoso Satyavrato Nama Rajarshir Dravideshvara Jnanam Yotita Kalpante Lebhe Purusha Sevaya Savai Vaivasvata Putro Manur Asir Iti Shrutam Tvatastasya Sutta Prokta Ikshvaku Pramukha Nripaha. Satyavrat, the saintly king of Dravida Desh, who received spiritual knowledge at the end of the last millennium by the grace of the Supreme, later became Vaivasvata Manu, the son of Vivasvan, in the next Manvantar, the next period of Manu. I received this knowledge from you. I also understand that such kings as Ikshvaku were his sons, as you have already explained. Oh, and there's just before one thing, the link from Canto 8 to Canto 9. So at the end of the 8th canto, Shukadeva Goswami mentioned that King Satyavrat appeared as Vaivasvata Manu in his next life. So in the beginning of the 9th canto, Parīkṣit Maharaj expressed his desire to Shukadeva Goswami to know about the descendants of Vaivasvata Manu. So we're just continuing on. Okay. Teshang Vangsham Pratag Brahmam Vangshanu Charitani Cha Kirtayasva Mahabhaga Nityang Shushrushatam Hina. O greatly fortunate Shukadeva Goswami, O great Brahman, kindly describe to us separately the dynasties and characteristics of all those kings, for we are always eager to hear such topics from you. Ye bhuta ye bhavishyascha Bhavantyadantanashchaye tesham na punyakirtinam sarvesham vadak vikraman. Kindly tell us about the abilities of all the celebrated kings born in the dynasty of Vaivasvata Manu, including those who have already passed, those who may appear in the future, and those who exist at present. Shri Sutta Uvacha Evam Parīkṣita Ragya Sadasi Brahmavadinam Prishta Provacha Bhagavan Chuka Parama Dharmavit. Sutta Goswami said, when Shukadeva Goswami, the greatest knower of religious principles, was thus requested by Maharaj Parīkṣit in the assembly of all the scholars learned in Vedic knowledge, he then proceeded to speak. Shri Shuka Uvacha Shruyatang Manava Vangsha Prachuryena Parantapa Nashakyate Vistarato Vaktung Varsha Shatar Api. Shukadeva Goswami continued, O king, subduer of your enemies, now hear from me in great detail about the dynasty of Manu. I shall explain as much as possible, although one could not say everything about it, even in hundreds of years. Paravarisham bhutanam atmaya purusha para saeva sid idang vishvam kalpante nyanchana. The transcendental supreme person, the supersoul of all living entities who are in different statuses of life, high and low, existed at the end of the millennium, when neither this manifested kamos. Let me reread that. So that supreme person existed at the end of the millennium, when neither this manifested cosmos nor anything else but him existed. Okay, now we're reading the purport of Srila Prabhupada. Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Taking the proper position from which to describe the dynasty of Manu, Shukadeva Goswami begins by saying that when the entire world is inundated, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead exists and nothing else. Shukadeva Goswami will now describe how the Lord creates other things, one after another. Tasya nabhe samabhavat parmakosho hiranmaya tasmin jagye maharaja swayambhushchaturanana. O King Parīkṣit, from the navel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead was generated a golden lotus, on which the four-faced Lord Brahma took his birth. Maritirmanasastasya jagyetasyapi kashyapa dakshayanyam tato dityang vivasvan abhavat sutta. From the mind of Lord Brahma, Marichi took birth, and from the semen of Marichi, Kashyapa appeared from the womb of the daughter of Daksha Maharaj. From Kashyapa, by the womb of Aditi, Vivasvan took birth. Tato Manu Shadha Deva Samgya. One second. Oh, there's a thing. One second. Oh, Samgyayam Asabharata Shradham Janayam Asa Dashaputram Sa Atmavan Ikshvako Nrigasharyati Dishta Dhrishta Karushakan Narishyantam Prishadram Cha Nabhagang Cha Kavim Vibhu. O king, best of the Bharat dynasty, from Vivasvan, by the womb of Sangya, Shadadev Manu was born. Shadadev Manu, having conquered his senses, begot 10 sons in the womb of his wife Shraddha. The names of these sons were Ikshvaku, Nriga, Sharyati, Dhishta, Drishta, Karushaka, Narishyanta, Prishadra, Nabhaga, and Kavi. See, here's a list of the... See, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Brahma, Marichi, Kashyapa, Vivasvan, then all these. Aprajasya mano purvam Vasishto Bhagavan kila Mitra varunayor ishtim prajartam akarod vibhu. Manu at first had no sons. Therefore, in order to get a son for him, the great saint Vasishta, who is very powerful in spiritual knowledge, performed a sacrifice to satisfy the demigods Mitra. Tatra Shraddha Manopatni Hotaram Samayachata Duhitrartham Upagamya Pranipatya Payovrata. During that sacrifice, Shraddha, Manu's wife, who was observing the vow of subsisting only by drinking milk, approached the priest for offering the sacrifice, offered obeisances to him, and begged for a daughter. Preshito dvaryuna hota vyacharatat samahita grihite havishi vacha vashatkaram grinandvijaha. Told by the chief priest, now offer oblations. The person in charge of oblations took clarified butter to offer. He then remembered the request of Manu's wife and performed the sacrifice while chanting the word Vashat. What's Vashat mean? Does it mean female? Hotustar vyabicharena kanyela nama sambhavat tam vilokya manu praha natitushta mana gurum. Manu had begun that sacrifice for the sake of getting a son, but because the priest was diverted by the requests of Manu's wife, a daughter named Ila was born. Upon seeing the daughter, Manu was not very satisfied. Thus he spoke to his guru Vasishta as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because Manu had no issue, he was pleased at the birth of a child, even though a daughter, and gave her the name Ila. Later, however, he was not very satisfied to see the daughter instead of a son. Because he had no issue, he was certainly very glad at the birth of Ila, but his pleasure was temporary. Bhagavan kim idam jatam karmavo brahmavadinam viparyayam aho kashtam maivang syar brahmavikriya. Because he wanted to continue on the lineage, right? That's why. My Lord, all of you are experts in chanting the Vedic mantras. How then has the result been opposite to the one desired? This is a matter for lamentation. There should not have been such a reversal of the results of the Vedic mantras. Purport. Any way to talk about the Sankirtanya, Prabhupada always. In this age, the performance of yajna has been forbidden because no one can properly chant the Vedic mantras. If Vedic mantras are chanted properly, the desire for which a sacrifice is performed must be successful. Therefore, the Hare Krishna chant is called the Maha Mantra, the great exalted mantra above all other Vedic mantras, because simply chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra brings so many beneficial effects, as explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the first verse of Shikshashtak. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamrita swadanam sarvatma snapanam parang vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional repeated birth and death. This Kirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Therefore, the best performance of yajna given to us is the Sankirtan yajna. Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. Those who are intelligent take advantage of the greatest yajna in this age by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in congregation. When the Hare Krishna mantra is chanted by many men together, the chanting is called Sankirtan, and it is the result of such a yajna. And as a result of such a yajna, there will be clouds in the sky. Yajna bhavati parjanya. In these days of drought, people can gain relief from scarcity of rain and food by the simple method of the Hare Krishna yajna. Indeed, this can relieve all of human society. At present, there are droughts throughout Europe and America, and people are suffering. But if people take this Krishna consciousness movement seriously, if they stop their sinful activities and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, all their problems will be solved without difficulty. In other processes of yajna, there are difficulties because there are no learned scholars who can chant the mantras properly, who cannot chant. There aren't any proper learned scholars who can chant the mantras perfectly well, nor is it possible to secure the ingredients to perform the yajna. Because human society is poverty-stricken and men are devoid of Vedic knowledge and the power to chant the Vedic mantras, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the only shelter. People should be intelligent enough to chant it. Yajnai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. Those whose brains are dull cannot understand this meaning, nor can they take to it. Yuyam Brahma Vido Yuktas Tapasa Dagdakil Bisha Kutta Sankalpa Vaishamyam Anritam Vibhudesh Viva. You are all self-controlled, well-balanced in mind, and aware of the absolute truth. And because of austerities and penances, you are completely cleansed of all material contamination. Your words, like those of the demigods, are never baffled. Then how is it possible that your determination has failed? Purport. We have learned from many Vedic literatures that a benediction or curse given by the demigods never proves false. By performing austerities and penances, by controlling the senses and minds, and by achieving full knowledge of the absolute truth, one is fully cleansed of material contamination. Then one's words and blessings, like those of the demigods, are never a failure. Nishamyatarvachastasya Bhagavan prapitamaha hotur vyatikramam gyatva babhashera vinandanam. The most powerful great-grandfather Vasishta, after hearing these words of Manu, understood the discrepancy on the part of the priest. Thus he spoke as follows to the son of the sun god. Etat sankalpa vaishamyam hotuste vyabhicharataha tatapi sadayishyete suprajastvam swatejasa. This discrepancy in the objective is due to your priest's deviation from the original purpose. However, by my own prowess, I shall give you a good son. Evam vyavasito rajan bhagavan sa mahayasha astoshid adipurusham ilaya pungstva kamyaya. Shukadeva Goswami said, O King Parīkṣit, after the most famous and powerful Vasishtha made this decision, he offered prayers to the Supreme Person, Vishnu, to transform Ila into a male. Tasmai kama varam tushto bhagavan haririshvara tadav ila bhavatena sudyumna purusharshabha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, being pleased with Vasishtha, gave him the benediction he desired. Thus Ila was transformed into a very fine male named Sudyumna. Sa ekada maharaja vicharan mrigayang vane vritta kati payamatyar ashvam aruhya saindavan praghraruchiram chapam sharangscha paramar bhavan dangshito nu mrigan viryo jagama dishamuttaram. So now Sudyumna becomes a female and regains his maleness. O King Parīkṣit, that hero Sudyumna, accompanied by a few ministers and associates and riding on a horse brought from Sindhu Pradesh. Did it skip a verse? No, I guess not. Okay. So yeah. So that hero Sudyumna, accompanied by a few ministers and associates and riding on a horse brought from Sindhu Pradesh, once went into the forest to hunt. He wore armor and was decorated with bows and arrows, and he was very beautiful. While following the animals and killing them, he reached the northern part of the forest. Sukumara vanam meror adhastat praviveshaha yatraste bhagavan charvo ramamana sahomaya. There in the north, at the bottom of Mount Meru, is a forest known as Sukumar, where Lord Shiva always enjoys with Uma. Sudyumna entered that forest. Tasmin pravishta eva so Sudyumna paraviraha apashyat striyamatmanam ashvam cha vadavandripa. O King Parīkṣit, as soon as Sudyumna, who was expert in subduing enemies, entered the forest, he saw himself transformed into a female, and his horse transformed into a mare. So it's any creature that goes inside there is transformed into a female. Tataranuga sarve atmalinga viparyayan drishtva vimanaso bhuvan vikshamana parasparam. When his followers also saw their identities transformed and their sex reversed, they were all very morose and just looked at one another. Whoa, what happened? Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. I love how they're just looking at one another, just in disbelief. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Katam evam guno desha kena va bhagavan krita prashnan enam samachakshva paranko tu halam hina. Maharaj Parīkṣit said, O most powerful Brahman, why was this place so empowered? And who made it so powerful? Kindly answer this question, for I am very eager to hear about this. Shishuka uvacha ekada girisham drashtum rishayastatra suvrata disho viti mirabhasa korvanta samupagamam. Shukadeva Goswami answered, Great saintly persons who strictly observed the spiritual rules and regulations and whose own effulgence dissipated all the darkness of all directions once came to see Lord Shiva in that forest. Tan vilokyambika devi vivasa vridita bhrishan bharturankat samuthaya nivim ashvata paryadhat. When the goddess Ambika saw the great saintly persons, she was very much ashamed because at that time she was naked. She immediately got up from the lap of her husband and tried to cover her breasts. Rishayo pitayor viksha prasangam ramamanaya nivritta prayayustasman nara narayanashramam. Seeing Lord Shiva and Parvati engaged in sexual affairs, all the great saintly persons immediately desisted from going further and departed for the ashram of Nara Narayan. Tadidang Bhagavan aha priyaya priyakamyaya stanam ya pravished etat savayod bhaved iti. Thereupon, just to please his wife, Lord Shiva said, "Any male entering this place shall immediately become a female." Tatta urdvan vanam tadvai purusha varjayantihi sa chanuchara sangyukta vichachara vanadvanam. Since that time, no male had entered that forest. But now King Sudyumna, having been transformed into a female, began to walk with his associates from one forest to another. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 22, it is said, Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grinanti naro parani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani sangyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The body is just like a dress, and here this is proved. Sudyumna and his associates were all male, which means that their souls were covered by male dress. But now they became female, which means that their dress was changed. The soul, however, remains the same. It is said that by modern medical treatment, a male can be transformed into a female, and a female into a male. The body, however, has no connection with the soul. The body can be changed either in this life or the next. Therefore, one who has knowledge of the soul and how the soul transmigrates from one body to another does not pay attention to the body, which is nothing but a covering dress. Pandita Samadarshina. Such a person sees the soul, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is a Samadarshi, a learned person. Attatang ashramabhyashe charanting pramadottamam stribi parivritam vikshya chakame bhagavan buddha. Sudyumna had been transformed into the best of beautiful women who excite sexual desire, and was surrounded by other women. Upon seeing this beautiful woman loitering near his ashram, Buddha, the son of the moon, immediately desired to enjoy her. Sapitang chakame subru somaraja sutam patim satasyam yam asa pururavasamad atmajam. The beautiful woman also desired to accept Buddha, the son of the king of the moon. She desired to accept Buddha as her husband. Thus Buddha begot in her. He begot in her womb a son named Pururava. Eva stritvam anuprapta subdumno manavo nripa sasmara sakulacharyan Vasishtam iti shushrumam. I heard from reliable sources that King Sudyumna, the son of Manu, having thus achieved femininity, remembered his familial spiritual master Vasishta. Satasyatang dasham drishtva kripaya bhrishapidita Sudyumna shayan pungstvang upadhavata shankaram. Upon seeing Sudyumna's deplorable condition, Vasishta was very much aggrieved. Desiring for Sudyumna to regain his maleness, Vasishta again began to worship Lord Shankar, Shiva. One second. Tushtastasmai sa bhagavan rishaye priyamah avahan svang chavyacham ritam kurvan idam aha visham pate masam puman sabhavita masam stri tava gotraja itang vyavastaya kamam Sudyumno vatu medinim. O King Parīkṣit, Lord Shiva was pleased with Vasishta. Therefore, to satisfy him and to keep his own word to Parvati, Lord Shiva said to that saintly person, "Your disciple Sudyumna may remain a male for 1 month and a female for the next. In this way he may rule the world as he likes." Purport. The word Gotraja is significant in this connection. Brahmins generally act as spiritual masters of 2 dynasties. One is their disciplic succession, and the other is the dynasty born of their semen. Both descendants belong to the same Gotra, or dynasty. In the Vedic system, we sometimes find that both Brahmins and Kshatriyas, and even Vaishyas, come in the disciplic succession of the same rishis. Because the Gotra and dynasty are one, there is no difference between the disciples and the family born of the there is no difference between the disciples and the family born of the semen. The same system still prevails in Indian society, especially in regard to marriage, for which the Gotra is calculated. Here the word Gotraja refers to those born in the same dynasty, whether they be disciples or members of the family. Acharyanugrahat kaman labdva pungstvam vyavastaya palayang asa jagatim nabhyanandan smatang praja. Thus, being favored by the spiritual master, according to the words of Lord Shiva, Sudyumna regained his desired maleness every alternate month, and in this way ruled the kingdom, although the citizens were not satisfied with this. Okay, so it was a continuous thing. It was every alternate month. 1 month he's a man, 1 month he's a female. Purport. The citizens understand that the king was transformed into a female every alternate month, and therefore could not discharge his royal duty. Consequently, they were not very satisfied. Tasyot-kalo gayo rajan vimalascha traya sutta dakshina patarajano babhuvur salaha. O king, Sudyumna had 3 very pious sons, named Utkala, Gaya, and Vimala, who became the kings of the Dakshina Pat. That means South India. Tata parinate kale pratishtana pati prabhu pururavasa utsrija gangputraya katovanam. And Utkal is the king of Orissa. Right? So Orissa is also called Utkal Desh. That's what it was called before. Thereafter, when the time was ripe, when Sudyumna, the king of the world, was sufficiently old, he delivered the entire kingdom to his son Pururava and entered the forest. Purport. According to the Vedic system, one within the institution of Varna and Ashram must leave his family life after he reaches 50 years of age. Panchashad urdhvam vanam brajet. Thus, Sudyumna followed the prescribed regulations of Varnashram, the kingdom, and going to the forest to complete his spiritual life. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 1st chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled King Sudyumna Becomes a Woman. All right, we ended early today, only 8:19. Let's see, what are we going to read tomorrow? There's Lord Shiva. Tomorrow we will read the dynasties of the sons of Manu. So we'll read the stories of Prishadra and Kavi. After Sudyumna retired, Vaivasvata Manu worshipped the Lord and obtained 10 sons. Prishadra took care of the cows and once mistakenly killed a cow, for which Prishadra cursed him to become a Shudra in the next life. Prishadra took to Brahmacharya, became a pure devotee, and attained the Lord. Then Kavi renounced the kingdom and attained perfection. And then we'll read dynasties of Kurusha, Dishta, Nriga, and Narishyanta, and the descendants of Dishta. I think this beginning part, there's a lot of, it's all dynasties. Wow, look at that. Lots of dynasties. Okay. I mean, lots of, yeah, whatever. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandhar Vikagiri Dhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shmar Bhakti Vedanta Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Srila Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai, Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopala Padadash Raghunath, Shad Gosai Prabhu ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki Jai, Namachai Shri Hairas Thakur ki Jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaur Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Nashama Kun ki Jai, Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Shukadev Goswami ki Jai, Shri Parīkṣit Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Sutta Goswami ki Jai, all the sages of Naimisharanya ki Jai, Shri Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavati Navam Skanda ki Jai, Shri Harinam Shri Chandra Vangsha ki jai, Surya Vangsha ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyavashacha Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha Pancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. See you all tomorrow. Oh, is that what it said? I didn't actually totally get that part. So one can't marry one's god siblings for having the same gotra. Huh. I thought you're supposed to be in the same gotra. Maybe not. Oh God, I must have just spaced out that part. Yeah, and I guess that force is gone now. That would definitely save a lot of trouble for the trans community, wouldn't it? Instead of having to go through all the surgeries and money and all that, just go in the forest and jobs taken care of. Okay, yeah, it didn't say that exactly, no. Okay. Alright, Dandavat Pranams, Haribol! So happy to be reading with all of you again, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Dandavat Pranams. Okay, you're told that you're not supposed to marry in the same gotra. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about any of that kind of stuff, so you know a lot more about this kind of thing than I do. I don't even have a gotra, or well, a Chuta gotra, right? All Vaishnavas are a Chuta gotra. All right, Haribol.